Hello and welcome to SimCast, the higher education simulation podcast. My name's Tony Jeremy and I'm joined by my regular co-host, Dr. Lawrence Hill.
Hi everyone, welcome back to SimCast and a very warm welcome. And today we are joined by Abby Mitchell and Sophie Gardner. Welcome to the podcast. Well, welcome back.
Welcome back, Abby.
Great, it's lovely to be back. Thank you.
I think you're our first ever proper returning guest. So
How
that's
about that?
I don't know whether that's something to embrace or not.
That's a win. That's a massive win. And a huge welcome to you, Sophie, as well. Thanks for coming along today.
Thanks for inviting me.
So in today's episode, we are going to be looking at the launch of a new simulation journal, which we're really, really excited about. And Abby and Sophie are going to come and talk to us about that. So Abby Mitchell is a senior lecturer in nurse education and faculty lead for simulation at King's College London. She's the consultant editor for the Journal of Simulation in Healthcare Education.
Which is the journal that we're talking about today, which is launching, and we're going to get into that in a minute. And also we welcome Sophie Gardner, editorial director at MA Healthcare and the editor of Simulation in Healthcare Education and the former editor of the British Journal of Nursing. A very warm welcome to you both.
If you enjoyed the episode, please give us a like. Equally so, if you didn't like the episode, give us a dislike, but let us know in the comments why, because we're always keen to improve. To keep up to date with all things Sim, subscribe to the channel and don't forget to check the notification bell. And SimCast is available on all popular streaming platforms. So before we get started, I guess we probably should do a kind of conflict of interest and disclosure that we've been honourably invited to be part of the editorial board as well. And that's one of the reasons we're here to talk today. So I think we just get that out in the open first.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll get that out in the open. But let's throw the floor open to you guys and let's hear about it. So where did this? We normally ask people when they come on why they do what they do, but perhaps this is about why is there space for a new journal in simulation education. So tell us a bit about why we're coming and talking about this journal today, where it's come from, what are the origins. Should we throw that over to you, Sophie, first of all?
Sure. So as the editor of British Journal of Nursing, we get an awful lot of submissions on various topics, and over the past couple of years, we'd really noticed a real influx of articles, comment pieces on simulation, particularly in nursing. And it just kind of got me thinking. And I spoke to Abby, who was also on the board of British Journal of Nursing. And we sort of put our heads together and thought this would make the perfect journal. But let's not keep it to just nursing. Let's open it up and let's make it inclusive for all professions. So that's sort of where it came from.
So what happened next then? So you two have had this conversation, and what happened next then, Abby? So obviously, Sophie, you must have known about all of the amazing work that Abby's been doing in simulation. Presumably that's kind of where the little spark came from. So what happened next? Like how do you even launch a journal? Like what happens next?
So I went to Abby and we put together a business proposal, which I took to the powers that be here at MA Healthcare. And they were behind us and thought that there was absolutely a need for this journal. And then there's lots of very boring admin-y things that have to be done in order to launch a journal, such as getting an ISBN number and all kind of nerdy things. So once all that's all in place, got a submission site ready, Abby and I discussed, most importantly, that every journal is reflective of its editorial board. So we wanted the perfect board to follow us. And so I tasked Abby with that.
So tell us a bit about that process, Abby.
So you mentioned about being inclusive, and I think that really speaks volumes about your editorial board, doesn't it, Abby?
Yeah, absolutely. We are so delighted with our editorial board and for the enthusiasm that has grown with that. As Sophie said, that kind of need to put together the journal. We did do quite a bit of scoping. We talked to a lot of people. We talked to a lot of people in the field to see what their thoughts are about simulation journals. We looked very extensively about what journals were already out there. and we didn't want to, necessarily compete. We want to be something that runs alongside those journals, and we have our own place where we can sit very comfortably. And so that was also really important with the board. We wanted to make sure that the board was representative of the whole simulation community, not just the people that maybe are the front runners and maybe are the ones that we all know about because they're publishing their research, which is fantastic, but also for those kind of hidden workforces within simulation who do that fantastic work, and without them we wouldn't have the simulations that we have, we wouldn't have that kind of growth in digital simulations, and we wouldn't be able to continuously embed them in the curriculum. So our board has hopefully representation of lots of different disciplines, and we're very delighted to have you both as part of that. We also have simulation technician representation, learning designer. We have simulation experts from the military, from midwifery, from pharmacy. So a whole rounded, holistic group of people who want to put together this community of practice, who want to talk about simulation, and who want to encourage more people to talk about the fantastic work they're doing and enable and support them to share that.
Great, thank you. You mentioned that it sits within a kind of simulation sphere of existing journals and content, and you didn't necessarily want it to compete. So where does it sit then? Whereabouts in the journal literature sphere does it sit?
Yeah, what's your niche, do you think?
Well, I think what sets BJN apart is that it is a practical clinical journal that nurses can use day in, day out. And I think we wanted to do something very similar with this. So less highbrow, less research, although we still want research, but we want it to be something that people can pick up and apply to their everyday practice. Abby?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to know about the good work that's happening, and we want that to be shared in maybe case studies, in evaluations, in commentary pieces, and in the research. But we want that research to be research that can be applied so that we can all grow and develop from that best practice. And I think that's what's so important about the simulation community, is that these great pieces of work need to come together so that we can move simulation pedagogy into the way that it is transforming and developing and becoming this integral part of education. And we want there to be one space for people to share those ideas. And as Sophie already said, historically, some of these fantastic articles are in different journals. So when you then start as a practitioner to go and look for them, they're in different places. And how do we then build on that body of knowledge and that community when we're kind of sharing that in a fragmented way? And we want this to be that place, that home for people to share those ideas.
That's great, isn't it? Like, if you're lucky enough to work in somewhere like higher education, you often have access to that wide variety, don't you? Because your institution will pay for the subscription service through the institution, but you won't necessarily have that if you're a practitioner on the front line.
Yeah, and I just have to say, like, I just, the ethos of this journal just really speaks to me. Like, I just love this idea that it's about it's the work as done of simulation, that they're not the perfect, polished, empirical outputs, but actually the real world stuff that simulation educators and technicians and specialists and others involved in the whole sphere
and to be
have just done stuff. When you just do things and you're like, this was really good, and but it's you perhaps don't have ethics, and it's not a research project.
And to be honest, and we can probably be quite frank here, in some journals you won't even get a look in, will you, with some of those pieces of work, but they're really important still. So and actually it was such a privilege to be invited to your inaugural editorial board meeting and to really get a sense of the diversity. And I would kind of look at that from so many different angles as well, not kind of conventional notions of diversity, but, the different specialisms within the kind of the sort of technical aspects of the simulation delivery, folk from different angles, and
and geography as well, like quite an international board, I think, as well as I recall. So really welcoming environment, and yeah, just a pleasure to be a part of that. So really looking forward to seeing how that goes.
Great, thank you. And I totally agree. And we can learn so much from each other. And that's the beauty of something like this, especially, connecting internationally, working together internationally. But we also want to know when, simulation doesn't go right. We don't want those kind of perfect, this is when it went brilliantly and everybody loved it and we all clapped at the end. We want to know what those challenges are, how they were, causing us an issue, how maybe we overcame them or we didn't, because all of that learning will help us all in terms of progressing and developing for the next stage. And also for our students, the more simulation we give them, the more workforce ready they are, the more practice preparation they have. And in light of this post-digital era, the more opportunities they have to work with some of these technologies that they might use when they qualify out in clinical practice.
Yeah, that speaks to the ethos of simulation, doesn't it? That again, we use this term all the time: work as imagined versus work as done, and that's what simulation is so often, isn't it? Is the imperfectness of the messy reality that we live in. So that being reflected within the journal itself would be really, really interesting. So this episode is going out on the 15th of April. So the journal won't have gone live then, or will it?
Where are you at? What's going to be happening, do you think, around the 15th of April? A vision of the future from Sophie.
We're having a bit of a soft launch. So we're putting articles up. The idea is it's continuous publishing. So again, supporting all our authors. So as soon as an article's accepted, we can get it edited and put up online and ready to go. So I'm hoping by the 15th we'll have a few more ready to go online. We've already got a few submissions in that we are currently under review. One of yours as well, Lawrence.
Well, we did.
Bit of work that we've both been doing, and I guess it's a sort of admission time, isn't it? We've submitted it to a couple of journals and got a bit of pushback. And again, it's probably because it didn't have the right sort of academic stringent rigor to it and ethics approval.
I think this is such a good. Thank you for the opportunity of sharing some vulnerability in the publishing space. I mean, this is a real experience, isn't it, for researchers and scholars and practitioners who want to share their work across disciplines.
But it's part of the process as well, isn't it? Getting pushback. And not getting approval. And managing that rejection, because it can feel like rejection rather than just, no, thank you. It can feel quite personal. But actually, something that you talked about, Sophie, before we started the recording was around actually how can we as a community of practice begin to support emerging scholars who perhaps don't have the luxury of working in an academic team and can't go to like a supervisor and say, well, what should I do if you're not in that setting? So to give you an example of where we sit in our university, in our school, there is very definite research agendas, but simulation doesn't really fit into that. So we don't get the support from our wider research colleagues, and that's not probably being a bit harsh, but they're not as invested in their agenda is elsewhere. So that means that if you are doing really good pieces of work and you're an early career academic, or you're a bit research naive, it's much harder to get your work published.
So what are there plans for that?
So I mean, I think it's important from the off as well for any new writer to know that everybody gets pushback, and it's not just them, and not to take it personally. And we've got a wonderful board of peer reviewers who really take the time to look through articles, and they provide constructive criticism, and it's all meant to better the article. It's never meant to push people down, and I think it's so important to remember that when you get the feedback. But yeah, and when I was speaking earlier, we were talking about shadowing. So getting authors to shadow some of our editorial board members or people who write often, and just so they know the process and just feel more comfortable in it, I suppose.
And
I
suppose
the idea is that we don't want to. We're not out here to reject articles. We want to champion people. We want them to publish with us. We want research and like case studies that people can learn from. So it's all well and good doing a great piece of research and not publishing it is a crime to everyone else because no one can learn from it. But you can't just not publish it because it's not got all the elements there. And so we're happy to work with people in order to put their articles out there and get the word out of the great work you're doing.
It's really exciting, and it's so nice to for you just to like really just be totally upfront about the fact that actually it's warm, it's open, it's inclusive, it's about nurture, and it's about growth of this area of the discipline. It really resonates with me, and I think it sort of speaks to it's a real educational philosophy, right? Which is really nice for a journal which is obviously about education, like primarily. So it feels like there's a real congruence there with what you're doing, with what you're saying as well, which is really nice.
So you've talked about pieces of work coming in, and you've got a quick turnaround time potentially. What sort of work do you want to be submitted? What are you looking for? What would be your kind of ideal submissions?
I mean, Abby can add to this, but we'd say so. Clinical articles, some research, some case studies, some commentaries, and like so. If you're new to writing, a quick 1,000 words, although that doesn't sound quick, just a short article, just with your opinions about what's going on. That's a really easy way in for us. And leadership and policy, that kind of thing. Basically anything sort of evidence-based practice. Abby?
Yeah, I agree, Sophie. We'd also look for, maybe some practical tip articles. So some articles that we talked about, maybe, how to do moulage or, things that are really accessible so that I can pick that up and maybe go with it. And articles that are practical from a digital lens as well. We know that this is an emerging time. We know that we're all using these digital technologies differently. So some of those how do I start with this? What do I do? Are really good for a wide range of readership so that everybody can learn from your experiences. And as I said, we're looking for your ugly stories as well. They don't have to all be pretty, but they're definitely part of that journey. And I can honestly say in simulation, and especially with digital technology, the things that Benham and I have learned, we've learned by the hard way, not necessarily the easy way. And they're the good things to share so that you don't have to do it the hard way next time.
Yeah, lovely. I guess I've definitely got ugly stories I can share. That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, and you know what, actually, if you're listening thinking, do you know what, I have got some real howlers, as well as some really good practice that I think would be lovely to see in print, then please get in touch with, and talking of which, if people do want to submit to the journal, how do they find you, and what's the best way of getting in contact?
Well, you can always email myself or Abby. And then we also have a editorial manager site, which is a submission site for all manuscripts, which I'll give you the web address on the show notes. Yeah,
we'll pop that in the link below. Yeah. Absolutely. And so we'll get some contact details from you. A question that I had that was on my mind was: does this new journal have a stance on the use of artificial intelligence? And if so, what is it?
Depends what you're using it for, to be honest. So a lot of our editorial team here at MA Healthcare we would really, really prefer you not to be using it to retroactively put in references. And I think that is it. I think AI is fine for perhaps tidying up your grammar, not feeling very confident about things like that. But if you're using it to generate content, then I think that's a big no-no. And it really needs to be declared when you write. And we can spot it. I mean, it's quite it's quite obvious to spot. So we would really...
We're becoming ever increasing experts at spotting use of AI, and certainly in higher education circles. So,
but then as it gets more, I don't know, as it learns, it bypasses us sometimes. But so if you could avoid its use, I'd say please do, and definitely not for your references, because they get hallucinations.
Yeah, but again, that's why, if people are there to read the journal, they're there to read individual personal experiences, not an AI generated version of the truth.
Yeah, we want to hear from you.
Yeah. We want your voice. We want to hear from you. We want to know your experiences, and we don't need to know from AI. We want to know your lived experiences, and I think that's the beauty of this journal, is it is going to give a voice to people that maybe haven't been able to publish in the past or felt confident to do that. And we want to support and encourage you to do that, but it has to be your voice in your work.
Great, thank you. What advice would you give to someone who might be watching or listening to this and thinking, I quite like to do that, but I'm just a little bit hesitant, and I need some help with taking that first step? I'm sure there'll be so many people.
Yeah, just have a go. Stick some words down on a page.
What's the worst that can happen? Yeah, no, we joking aside, I think if you've got that in you, if you want to do it, I think you should absolutely do it. I think everybody's got it in them to be able to write and to be able, and there'll be people sitting here saying, no, I haven't. Yes, you have. You just need to, it's like baking a cake. Once you find your recipe, and it really is quite personal, and you find how that works for you, then you can refine it over time. But you've got to start somewhere, and the only place to start is by kind of tentatively putting your toe in the water. And as Sophie says, don't take it personally. Take the feedback and, apply it. But we also want to support. We want to give support. So if there was somebody, if you really feels that they need extra support, then reach out to us. We've got a fantastic board, as you know. As Sophie and I, there are experts that can support. And my advice would be find a friend.
Collaborate, yeah.
Do you know what? That is exactly what I was about to say. I think the first paper I ever published was because somebody who was much more experienced than me invited me and a couple of colleagues to come and collaborate on a paper. And it makes such a big difference. And I think, you can feel like it's something that you've got to do on your own, but actually the ideas are so much richer in discussion when you get together. And actually simulation is a collaborative social endeavor. There is zero chance that there was nobody else involved, because if it was a simulation for one, it wasn't a very good simulation, was it? So
going back to our example of where we got rejected and pushed back, I think the conversations that we had subsequently after that, we've both learned and developed so much, and we've shaped the paper submission and
hugely,
and not only that,
difference.
but it's based around a concept, isn't it? And the concept has changed and evolved. And actually for this last submission, we've brought another person in, which is one of our technical team, and it's completely changed the lens on.
It just freshened it up so much, and like that I set myself a goal a few years ago, which was never publish an article as a solo author, and I'm there. I've still not published as a solo author, and some people are like, oh, is that really a sign that you're not really? And I'm like, do you know what? If I get to the end of my academic career and I've only ever published in collaboration, that will be a massive win.
Absolutely, there are people who get to their end of their career and have never published, so it's an achievement. Who cares who you published with?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And
I care. No, but I care. That's the thing. Is like I really care, like who I've published with. Like I think I know that's the point that you're making. But
you're going full circle on you. That first paper you published, you got help and support, and now you want to give back.
Exactly. And now it's got to be a team thing, because I we say to students, don't we? And we set students up for this mindset of like, oh, you have to publish on your own, because like most undergraduate work and postgraduate work is a solo effort. A lot of it, if it's written. So we kind of silo people naturally by the way that the education system's set up.
That's probably where the first hurdle is, isn't it? A lot of people in practice will be thinking, oh, this is academic work. It take me back to my undergraduate degree or my master's where I had to do it all on my own. And then I guess the default thought is I have to continue to do that. Yeah.
And it's not.
And that's the beauty of this. You don't have to do it on your own. You can work together. You can share those examples and build your confidence. But then I would also say, once you've done that, pay it forward. Give somebody else the opportunity. Keep that ethos going. That's certainly, I've been very lucky in my life to have some exceptional people who have helped and supported me. And I would like to make sure that I continue that so that everybody gets the opportunity if they feel that that's what's right for them.
Pay it forward.
Great, thank you. Okay, so one last comment from both of you in terms of, I guess, a call to action for our listeners or our watchers in terms of whether they have any submissions or anything like that. Who wants to go first?
Okay, Sophie?
You go first, Abby.
Yeah. So to your listeners, we want to hear from you. We want to hear about how you've used simulation, how you're currently using it, how you've used it in the past, whether you've used it to evoke change, whether you've used it just as an educational delivery, whether you used it for innovation. We want to hear from you, and we want to continue hearing from you. You can put together some ideas and send them to us and think about whether that's something, if you don't want to write something straight off, because we understand that's a big commitment. And it's also a big commitment if you're a little bit hesitant and unsure. So maybe tentatively reach out and say, well, I'm thinking about an article like this, or I'm thinking about something. And hopefully we'll be able to support and give you hints and tips. So we want to hear from you. That's the first thing. And the second thing is we want you to read the journal. So we want this to be your journal, something that is your go-to, something that when you've got those 10 minutes spare and you've got a cup of tea and you know that you can go to the journal and you can find those articles that you're looking for, and they're going to be meaningful in your everyday practice.
Great, thank you, Abby, and we'll probably shamelessly plug it wherever we can as well. Sophie, what about yourself?
Well, I think I'm just going to reiterate what Abby said. This is your journal. We want it to reflect your work. We want it to reflect what you want to read. So if you're not confident in writing in, but you've got an idea of what you want to read about, just let us know, and we'll see what we can do. But yeah, we're here to help.
Love that.
And please read.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
So that's just lovely. Yeah, the whole thing is like, you know, that whole idea. I can't remember who it was, the politician that said it like that. Be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
You're saying write the article you want to see in the literature, you know, and come to this journal and do it. And you know,
we're so excited. You know, when we first spoke to you, Abby, about the journal and got a glimpse of what it has the potential to be like, it really sort of just sings to everything that we do.
Yeah, so. And hopefully we've conveyed some of that across to you, the listener, as well, because genuinely we are excited about this, and hopefully you are too. So I think huge thanks go to both of you, Abby and Sophie, for joining us here. Best of luck. We'll be with you every step of the way as editorial board members, but thanks for your time today, and thank you for listening. So we hope you've enjoyed this one, and we'll see you again on the next one.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.